Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to day 22 of albums that are 30 years old in 2023. That's right, we're looking back on 1993. We have picked out together 31 days in March, our 31 favorite albums that came out in 1993. This particular one, man, I'm excited to talk about this one because I knew this one was going to be on my list from the very, very beginning. But I hadn't listened to this album in a long, long time. I don't think I've listened to this album in 10, 15 years, easily. And when I went to go spin it recently, because I like to re-listen to all these before I come and talk about it, even if some of them I know very, very well. This is the debut album from this band. It came out, like I said, 1993. Originally for Dream Circle Records. It was shortly thereafter reissued on Magna Carta Records, because they signed a deal with Magna Carta. Produced by a couple guys in the band, as well as a guy you may have heard of, Stephen Rothery from Marillion. The album is A Blueprint of the World by Enchant. Have you heard of Enchant? No? Well, that's too bad. You're missing out. Very, very cool band. So the Enchant were one of these kind of groups that came out specifically from the U.S. In this kind of third wave of progressive rock in the 90s. So, you had the classic prog bands in the late 60s into the early mid-70s. Then you had this other new wave of British progressive rock in the early 80s, Marillion, IQ, 12th Night, Palace, Pendragon, so on and so forth. And then in the 90s, you had bands from all over the globe coming out and doing this progressive rock thing. And there was quite a few of them here in the States. And then this record label, Mark Farney's Magna Carta label, which was just started scooping up and signing all sorts of bands for their label. Shadow Gallery and Cairo and Magellan and Enchant were like the kind of the first of the wave of bands that were popping up on Magna Carta Records. And these guys, you had a mix of prog and prog metal. Magna Carta tended to do a lot of kind of like the prog metal stuff, but also some straight prog bands. And I think Enchant were always kind of labeled as a prog metal band, but to my ears, I never really heard a lot of the metal in their music. To me, this was much more kind of aggressive prog rock, but utilizing a lot of the latest technology. I think if you listen to specifically this album, their debut, which is terrific, it's one of my favorites from them still, you hear a lot of like 80s Rush. So specifically like signals through like power windows. So it's just big, bright, symphonic sounding, progressive rock, but with lots of, good riffs, good crisp riffs, lots of keyboards. Ted Leonard, well, I'm going to get to the lineup in a second, has a voice that to me sounds like a mix between John Anderson, Geddy Lee, and Steve Hogarth from Marillion. And again, the music kind of reminds me of that mid-80s Rush with the very early 90s Marillion after Fish left and H came into the band, as well as little bits of 70s, yes, and a tad of like very early 90s Dream Theater. Okay, but these guys, to my ears, were never quite as metallic as Dream Theater, not as heavy as Dream Theater, but there is that kind of when dream and day unite, images and words kind of thing going on here as well. I mean, obviously, Dream Theater were breaking big at the time, so a lot of bands were influenced by what Dream Theater were doing specifically on images and words. Great songwriting. Memorable hooks all over the place. Very, very tasty playing, but not overly gratuitous. So there's plenty of guitar and keyboards on here. A lot of exchanges and little solo spots, but they don't go overboard with it at all. And a very song-based album. So let's talk about the lineup here. So we've got Paul Craddock on drums. Ted Leonard on vocals, like I mentioned. He also would go on to sing for Spock's Beard, right? Singer in Spock's. Douglas Ott on guitar, Ed Platt on bass guitar, and Mike Giemer on keyboards. Also, Stephen Rothery from Marillion produced most of the album. It's weird how he produced, like, I think 80% of the album, and then wound up remixing it all as well. But he also plays a guitar solo on one track, which is Nighttime Sky. As soon as you hear it, it's Stephen Rothery. But a really, really enjoyable album. Like I said, I hadn't listened to this in many, many years, and I was playing it this week, and I'm like, oh, man, this is still so good. It holds up so well. I got the arrangements are really bright. The production is just bright and uplifting, and Like I said, it's not really a heavy album, but it rocks for sure. It's very symphonic sounding, but most importantly, there are hooks and melodies like everywhere you go on here. The Thirst is a killer song, kicks off the album. Then you got the wonderful Catharsis, which has just a great chorus. You'll be humming it in your head right after you hear it. Then you got Oasis, and most of the tracks are fairly lengthy on here, 6, 7, 8 minutes long. Everything on here, pretty much. Oasis is really good. The Acquaintance is lovely, and again, great keyboard lines. Right, the keyboard melodies are just exquisite. The vocal hook is just great. Excellent song. You got Mayday, another good track. Actually, sorry, that's the shortest song on the album. That's 3 minutes and change. Then you have At Death's Door, which is one of the heavier tracks on here. Also really good, over 7 minutes long. East of Eden is terrific. Then you have the great Nighttime Sky, which is just under 9 minutes. That's got the guitar solo from Stephen Rothery. Also really good, really classic prog sounding. You have the wonderful Enchanted. And then the last song is Open Eyes. Both those last two have great vocal melodies. Just this whole album is really strong. And, this is, I will readily admit it here, this is a band that I listened to a lot in the 90s and in the early mid-2000s. They released a whole bunch of albums. God, they haven't put anything in quite a while. But I was very into this band, seen them live. They played at Nearfest, thought they were excellent. Really nice guys. I've chatted online with a couple of them over the years. And for just some reason, maybe because they just haven't released anything in so long, they've been one of those kind of like out of sight, out of mind bands for me. And after kind of re-listening to this recently, I'm going to go and listen to the rest of their catalog again, because I haven't listened to this band in a long time, and I have all their stuff, and I've always really enjoyed them. So, so if you've never listened to Enchant, Blueprint of the World is their debut from 1993. It's dynamite, but I would recommend any of their other albums. And like I said, the best way for me to describe them is if you really like the kind of bright liveliness and freshness of Rush, if you kind of came into Rush in the 80s with albums like Signals and Grace Under Pressure and Power Windows, not so much Hold Your Fire, but those 3 albums, that's kind of the vibe I get from a lot of these Enchant albums. They're going for that style of prog, right? And there's little bits of Dream Theater, but not too much. You get a little bit of Yes. A lot of the solos they play in the songs remind me of classic Yes, like Relayer, maybe Going for the One, that type of era. And like I said, there is a little bit of that Marillion vibe, but not so much the Fish era, but more so the very early couple albums with Steve Hogarth before they got a little more kind of like somber and dreamy and ethereal. I think that's the kind of vibe you get, but very great melodies all throughout. This is very song-based prog. Very accessible. I think you'll dig it if you've never listened to it. But if you are a fan of Enchant, let us know a little bit of how you feel about this album down in the comments below, as well as your pick for today, day 22, here on albums that are 30 years old in 2023. So stay tuned for more stuff here on the channel. Also, for those of you watching tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Guitar Hack channel, I will be appearing with Guitar Hack. We are going to rank our 5 favorite Styx albums. That's coming up tonight. So, of course, that's the 22nd of March, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Guitar Hack. It's another YouTube channel. I appear on Guitar Hack once a month. He comes on Sea Tranquility as well. So we've had a great relationship for the last couple of years. So we'll be ranking the albums of Styx. So that's coming up tonight. And stay tuned Friday morning, of course. Martin Popoff and I will be going back to the Funhouse. We got a fun show planned for you this Friday, and then we've got the UK Connection coming up on Saturday, and ranking the albums. I will be ranking the catalog of Billy Squier coming up on Sunday. So lots to do here on the channel. I know I'm a couple days late, but I told you I was going to get to that next installment of those great 6-album runs. I'm going to try really hard to get to it later today. I hope I can get to it today. Worst case scenario, it'll be tomorrow. But just a lot going on in life this week. So trying to squeeze everything in that I possibly can as I'm running low on voice here. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Very, very important. Also, down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, as well as our Ko-Fi page, as well as our merch page. We're trying to get all this in here, where you can get all sorts of cool Sea Tranquility stuff. So thanks for watching, everybody. It's an Enchant day here at the Pardo household, but I'll see you tomorrow morning with another one. We've got again, we got a few more coming up, right? As we're almost at the end of the month. Not quite. We're getting there. Before we move into the greatest riff masters of all time for the month of April. That's coming up in April. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Pete Pardo. Have a good one. Bye-bye.